get started on this exercise, make sure you have access to the appropriate files. First off, I'm giving you access to a template file for the catalog that we're going to be building. Now this will set up your document exactly the way you need it, but before we start setting up the entire catalog, we need to make sure we can prep the images first. The first set of image is going to be this cover set of kids. The other images are going to be each of the products that we need to be able to select and cut out and use for your catalogs. Keep in mind, you've got 3 different catalogs. The way you set up one catalog can be very similar to all of the others, so don't think that you have to do a completely different design for each one. Let's get started building the cover image first. We're going to open the Cover Kids JPEG in Photoshop. And the first thing we need to do is we want to be able to select and cut out each one of these children, but we want to save it inside of a file or an image file that allows us to select which child we want to cut out and use in our cover. To do this, make sure you've got your Layers panel open, you've got the background selected, and also make sure you have your Channels panel open. We're going to be saving alpha channels for each one of the kids. In order to do this, I'm going to zoom in and let's go take it one child at a time. Each one kind of has their own little tricks to them. First off, to quickly select this child, we're going to use our rectangle marquee tool, and I'm simply going to click and drag around him so that I've got the entire area selected, actually a little more than is necessary. Then we're simply going to deselect the pink that's around him, leaving him selected. To deselect it, I'm going to choose my Magic Wand tool. It's hiding underneath the Quick Selection tool if you can't find it. And I'm going to set my tolerance to be around 30 to 35 and make sure Contiguous is checked on. With that done, you can hold down the Option key, and this will subtract away, when we click on the pink, all of the pink text that's here. Now, depending on the settings that you have, you may have some areas that it missed. So in this case, I can hold down the Option key and click again. And it may have some areas that it accidentally got rid of. So to add on to it, this is where I'm going to go back and choose my Quick Selection tool. Then I can zoom in and make sure the entire area is selected. So with this, I'm going to drag over where I missed his hand. Again, you can always hold down the Option key if you go too far. And I can see part of his wrist is missed up here too. Once you've got all of your character or your child selected, everything looks good from here. Go to your Channels panel. We want to be able to save the selection as an alpha channel. This is a black and white mask. With the selection done, you can click on the bottom center one that has the circle inside of the rectangle. This will create a new alpha channel. Then double click it. I'm going to call it Kid 1. And you can see this mask will simply give a black and white outline of the area you've got selected. To go back to our normal view, click on RGB at the very top, the actual name of it. This will redo it. Then we can go up to Select and deselect our person. Now this first kid was pretty easy. This second kid has a bit of a challenge, especially around her hair. So let's do the same technique. Grab your rectangle marquee and select the kid. Then grab your Magic Wand tool and hold down Option and click on the color behind her. Again, if you miss some little parts like inside here, I can hold down Option, make sure to get those too. Now to clean this up, we want to be able to also select all the areas that's inside of her hair. And this is going to be difficult to do because it's so frizzy. So in order to clean it up, with the Magic Wand selection tool still selected, let's choose Select and Mask. This will take us into mask mode, and this will allow us to refine our edges. First off, if you go to your Properties panel, I set my view to be on black, and then I'm going to change my opacity and bring it down to about 70 to 80%, just so you can see some contrast. Next, to refine your area, use the Refine Edge tool. It's this second brush tool up at the top. You can change the size of it as necessary, but you can see when you click and drag over the area on her hair, how it's going to refine that edge and do a better selection than you could ever do with just the marquee tools by themselves. Again, if there's any other areas like around in her body, this is where you can go back and make the change and transformation too. Once she's nice and cut out, Again, you can go over to your properties and play around with some of these settings. For the most part, I don't need it here. The magic happens down at the very bottom. In this case, we want to output the selection to a selection. Make sure selection is chosen. So when you say OK, this will give you your selection here. Finally, let's save her as an alpha channel. Again, in your channels panel, choose New Alpha Channel. And then in this case, I can rename it Kid 2. You can see now that it's picking up on not just the black and white outline, but also some of the gray areas inside of her hair. Again, click on RGB at the very top, and then you can go to Select and deselect this kid. Let's repeat this process for each of the other total 6 kids that you have. All right, with all of these done, you should now have kids 1 through 6 saved in your alpha channels by themselves. Let's put my alpha channels back down over here. Now to save this image, in order to keep your alpha channels, let's save it as a TIFF file. So we'll go to File and Save As. As far as the format goes, select TIFF, and we can call this Cover Kids Edited. When we hit Save, as far as the TIFF options goes, we'll keep everything exactly the same and say OK to this. We can now close this out. The next thing we need to do is to do a clipping path around each of our products. In this case, choose one of your products and open it up in Photoshop. And for this one, we need to open our Paths panel. With the Paths panel, I'll drag it off over here. We're going to do similar to what we've done with each of the kids. In this case, let's choose our Quick Selection tool, and we need to quickly and easily select each of the products. Make sure the product is selected, but if in this case my donut has a hole in it, I can hold down Option and deselect the inside of it. Carefully get all the different parts. Now with this, once you have your selection, we want to save this selection as a vector path. Inside of your Paths panel, at the very bottom center, you've got a little circle with each of the little Bezier anchor points. With one click, this will create a new working path. You can then double-click it and save the path as the name of whatever your product is. So in this case, it's the Von Schweetz. Say OK to that. Repeat this process for each of the products. So scooting over, select the next product, and then go to your Paths panel and create a new path, and just be sure to double click it and rename it something other than Work Path. Now that we've got each of the paths saved inside of our file, we can back out. Let's go up to File and simply save this as a regular JPEG image. We'll put our Paths panel back where it belongs, and then we can close it out. Now we can bring each of these images into InDesign and start to use it. And we'll cover that part in the next video.